and we've been using them for our whole primate evolution. Primates have things in common. We're all picky eaters, and we're home to finding the cream of nature's crop. We don't eat grass. We don't eat like conifer needles. We're after the good stuff, and I'll go into more detail about that later. So the first primates or primate-like ancestors were nocturnal, and they needed to be because the dinosaurs ruled the daytime. We were warm-blooded, so we could do things at night. Because we were doing things at night, we needed a strong sense of smell. And we still have a very strong sense of smell. In fact, smell is correlated to memory more than any other sense. And that's a legacy of our little insectivorous relatives. And Pangea was still in the process of splitting up at the time. So these guys actually live right here. They live right on this rock. They were primate ancestors in North America. And that's something important to consider when we talk about, do people belong in nature? Do people belong here in the North American continent? As we evolved, our line of the primate family developed a specialty for fruit. After the dinosaurs went extinct, they come out in the daytime, and one of the best sources of food at the time were fruits. And the kinds of fruits that flowering plants were starting to evolve. Long span of time we did that, and it was during an age when the world was a much more humid place. It was warmer, it was wetter, the earth was covered in forests, even all the way up to the poles. So that way of life was really conducive to becoming social. And if you look at modern monkeys who live in the canopy and eat fruit, you'll notice that they live in social groups a lot like we do. And that's when we inherited that part of our makeup. Throughout this time, the climate is very gradually warming and drying for really complex geological reasons. And grasses are beginning to evolve. The next step on our journey is being an ape. You can see some of when our common ancestors of the great apes and the chimpanzees lived. They also lived in the forest, like the primates before them, and they also ate mostly fruit. But they were starting to figure out other things. They were starting to figure out how to eat bird eggs, how to opportunistically hunt even. They were using their big brains. So we can talk about some of our living ape relatives. What do we have to learn from them? There's not as much work done about orangutans as there's been done on chimps, but they're actually physiologically more like us. We share more characteristics with them. They also specialize in fruit. And a reoccurring theme I found with primates is that they really are into the fig family of plants. And I think that's significant. Like 90% of some primates' diets comes from fruits in the fig family. So we're talking about our ecological niche, right? And what do we inherit from our ancestors? And one thing that we inherit being frugivores is a special relationship with fruited plants. So primates are kind of like the Johnny Appleseeds of the jungle. I've got some stats here about how important animals are in forest ecology. Fruit trees are generally not the dominant trees in a forest. And that's kind of a chicken or the egg thing, and it's because they need to, they're species which need more. They need very particular sites. And since plants can't move, those that need to find very, very, say, bright spots in the forest, for instance, need the help of animals to move their seeds. Whereas the dominant trees, they're more hardy, don't need the help of animals so much. So that's a thing that we can trade. Like, look, I can spread your seeds if you feed me, And that's a relationship that's been going on for millions of years, and it's one that we can take advantage of today. And you don't have to dig cat holes on your property to propagate the seeds. There are hunter-gatherer groups that actually make an orchard out of the rainforest simply by camping in different places and discarding the seeds and the fruit waste, just over their shoulder while they're sitting around the campfire, and never camp in the same place twice. In this way, they're spreading, fruit seed all over the jungle. Another thing they do is they clear their campsites, so they create a sunny open area, and all their own household waste, the sunny conditions, and the seed of their favorite fruits can really thrive there. It's kind of a neat situation. Gorillas are really cool, and if you're into the vegetarian side of things, if you're into eating greens, and we've got a lot to learn from gorillas. So I've studied mountain gorillas most because they live in a climate that's more similar to our own. They live in an almost temperate condition up in the mountains, where you've got a lot of plants that you would recognize, probably similar to the northwest coast. They eat the same things that we do. If you're a forager, you'll know that the nettles and cleavers and thistles, bamboo shoots are all great foods. Gorillas take advantage of them, and they have a unique niche here because they're a dexterous herbivore. I think a gorilla is like how a cow would be if it had fingers. So if you're following me. So a gorilla has no competition for its food because it can take things like a nettle, and it can fold a nettle leaf up and kind of use its hands to eliminate that plant's defenses and then reap the benefits of that. And you can do that too. I eat nettle leaves that way all the time. They're commonly cooked. You don't have to. You can just fold them up carefully. It bends over the little needles, and it tastes really good that way. Cleavers, same deal. You guys familiar with the cleavers plant?
Yeah, you actually gave me some when you
were
teaching me to try.
Yeah.
So I remembered you.
So cleavers are kind of spiky, and if you're like most herbivores and you don't have hands, you kind of have to eat it with your face, and that's not going to work out very well. But a gorilla can kind of wad it up, mash it up, and eat it. And thistles too. I got a great photo of a gorilla eating thistles, and thistles are also really good for people. So avoid competition. So many people are putting big deer fences around their gardens. What if you had a garden that was just comprised of plants that were only available to you as a dexterous herbivore? So I think that's another good tool that we've inherited from our evolution. And bonus points if you know who that goofy guy is.
I bet it.
Yeah.
Let's go. Yeah.
Chimpanzees. There's a lot of work done about chimpanzees. They actually share less of our DNA than orangutans do. That's a recent discovery. They're generalist omnivores, just like we are. And just like hunter-gatherer groups, they tend to use about 200 plant species. That's the norm. And compare that to, what you have available to you at the grocery store. Can you count more than 20 species of plants as food available to you there? It's been the norm right up until 10,000 years ago when we started doing agriculture. We should demand at least 200 plant species in our diet, if not more. I think we should shoot for 300 or 400. Their diet is still 60 to 70% fruit, and they're also fond of big family fruits. And they hunt all kinds of things. They hunt little bush pigs. They hunt squirrels. They had squirrels in Africa. I was pretty surprised to learn that. They'll just eat the meat raw, and it's a nutritional reward enough for them that they'll learn how to do that and take advantage of that if they can. We all know that they use the little termite sticks to extract termites and eat bugs. Still eating bugs millions of years after we were nocturnal insectivores. They also use other tools. They use like a hammer and anvil stone to crack nuts. And they make shelters kind of like we do. They weave nests up in the trees. It's a really bad picture, but it actually takes chimpanzees most of their life to learn how to build a good nest. So kind of the home building mentality is already in our DNA, even at the point where we diverge with the chimpanzees. This is really cool. They also use spears and digging sticks. This is another recent discovery. If you want to read more about it, you can look at these papers. But they're hunting bush babies. So bush babies are also primates. They're nocturnal. They spend their daytimes in the cavities of trees. And so what the chimps have figured out is that they can break off a stick, and what they'll do, they'll kind of clean it up, make a nice tool for themselves, break it to shape, and then they'll chew it sharp. They'll use their teeth, and they'll shove it down in the crevices of trees, and they don't always know that the bush babies are in there, but if there is one in there, they got it. And interestingly enough, it's the female chimpanzees that are doing this, not the males. And it challenges a lot of our anthropological theories about the role of hunting and sex. The females have more to gain. They've got infants to feed. If you catch a bush baby, you're going to be a better mama. You feed your babies. So that's very early on. And digging sticks and spears were pretty much the basic tool set, almost right up until modern times. People are still using digging sticks and spears to hunt and gather food. And by digging stick, I mean a stick that's used to dig up roots to eat. And they're really big with native women, and they made really specialized digging sticks. So with these tools in hand, we left the savannah, and kind of the first creatures to do that were the Australopithecines. And we were faced with a dilemma then, because we had these big brains, and on the savannah, unlike the jungle, there's not a lot of fruit to eat. To fuel our brains, we had to find another source of calories. And our solution was meat. We began to hunt more. The chimpanzee-like relatives were already hunting. We probably started scavenging, scaring predators off their kills, because we can throw stuff. We can gang together and be intimidating. And another resource that we started to exploit more heavily was tubers and roots underground. And they think that some of these Australopithecine species derive a lot of their calories by digging up things like reed roots, chewing the starch out. And with that was our basic food strategy until just 10,000 years ago, until 1145 or 54. Which brings me to the Paleolithic diet. And I encourage you all to read about the Paleolithic diet. It's the idea that, hey, maybe we should eat what we evolved to eat. That would probably be good for our bodies. The Paleolithic diet involves meat, fruit, roots, and nuts. And eating grains is a relatively recent thing. We have no ancestors in our background that ate a lot of seeds. And we probably ate some here and there. We're not granivores. Repeat after me. Grain is for pigeons, and bread is for prisoners and slaves. Grain is for pigeons.
Grain is for pigeons.
Bread is for prisoners and slaves.
Bread is for prisoners and slaves.
What about beer?
Yeah, great.
Can we make an exception?
If you look at animals who are seed eaters, they're all really small. Before agriculture, it would have been impossible for an animal our size to find enough seeds to live off of. And they also have special adaptations. Chickens, for instance, to digest seeds, will have a gizzard, where they swallow a rock and they have a little, grain grinder in their system already. They've got different physiology because there's a different balance of fatty acids in grains than there is in meat and the other things that we evolved to eat. And that's where the omega-6 issue comes in. When we derive our fats from grains or grain-fed animals, it throws that off. And there are a million and one reasons why grain is inflicting damage on our diet and our health. And we'll talk about the environmental impacts of that later.